be present this morning in Minnesota or other places in the world will be able to see it later. So my name is Lucia, and on behalf of Women Against Military Madness, I welcome you to this meeting with and presentation by Dr. Mona El-Farra. We are so delighted to have her speak with us again today. Last time she presented to us was in November of 2017. So many things have changed in Gaza since then. I want to welcome you also on behalf of other groups and organizations that are co-hosting or co-sponsoring or supporting this event, which is including Middle East Peace Now and the Minnesota BDS community. I believe Veterans for Peace and the Northfielders for Justice and Peace in Palestine, Israel. I think American Muslims for Palestine, the local group, and some others that probably are in the back of my head and not coming forward right now. We also are going to ask a guest to say some words, and his name is Abdallah Saleh. He has just arrived in Minnesota earlier this week to go to college at Concordia University in Moorhead, Minnesota. He can tell us some things about getting out of Gaza because he lives in Gaza with his family. He's the youngest of a family in Gaza. And he has also spent some time in other countries around the world, including Norway, where he finished high school, and Senegal. So he's quite a well-traveled person. But like Dr. Mona El-Farra, finds that Gaza is home and returns there as Dr. El-Farra continues to live in Gaza. So we call you Dr. Mona here, and if that's okay, I'll ask you to greet us, and then maybe we'll have a few words of greeting from Abdallah Saleh, because as I understand it, he needs to get off to some meetings at his new university in Moorhead. Dr. Mona is has retired from treating patients right now, but continues as director of Gaza Projects for the Middle East Children's Alliance and several other humanitarian projects that she works on in Gaza, and can bring us very up to date in life and the situation there. So Dr. Mona, if you would greet us and say some words. Thank you.
You're muted, Mona.
Hello, good morning, everybody. And I'm really honored and glad that I'm joining this meeting with this old friends, since I have visited the Minneapolis in the year 2007, and I made one of my best speaking presentation at that place, and I was welcomed very well. So I salute you for your work, the work you are doing non-stop, stop this madness in the world, which is one of the reasons behind what's going on in the world in general, and my area, my country in particular. So thank you very much for interviewing me tonight, today I mean. And I would like just to say, just let us continue the work for peace, for justice. Let us continue work to stop the government's madness, really the arms deals. Let us continue working for a better world, better future for the children, for our children and grandchildren now. Now I am grandmother for 2 children, so I'm thinking of the new generation. And what's happening in my country that has been going on and on since Israel was founded 1948, and Palestinian people were made refugees. It is complete and utterly injustice, and this should stop. And Palestinian people must get the recognition of their rights for freedom, for self-determination, and for the right of return. This is just in general, but then we'll go to more details about my life in Gaza, what I'm doing, and what's the situation after the latest attack against Gaza, and what's the future for Gaza and its children and its women and men. It's those people who are living on the ground in Gaza, and I wouldn't say suffering. I would. It has gone beyond suffering. What happened in Gaza, especially with the Israeli assaults against Gaza, it is beyond just being suffering and killed people here and there. It is let us call it. It is war crimes. What's going on against the population of Gaza, and we'll continue living and trying our best because we are. I am like you. We're activists. We are working for a cause, and we'll continue our work to help those people. And part of my work is to raise the voice of those people who don't have voice, to raise the voice of women, children, and men of Gaza to the world, to carry the message and the pledge of 2.2 million who are living right now under occupation and siege that has been restricted great deal, especially after the latest attack. That's all. This is my introduction. Then if you want me to continue, I continue. If you want me to stop, tell me what to do.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Mona. I would like to introduce Mr. Abdallah Salha at this point. And as I said earlier, he has just arrived in Minnesota from Gaza. And apparently that was a difficult getting out of Gaza. So Abdallah, are you there? There you are. Go ahead and tell us a bit about your experiences in Gaza recently and your getting out of there.
Right. Thank you, Lucia. It's such a pleasure to be invited to this meeting, and thank you, Dr. Mona, for speaking earlier. I'll be brief, and I just want to say thank you for putting the time to come and attend such a meeting. You know, the path to peace and equality is hard, but you know it's on us to carry the message. And yeah, salute to you, as Dr. Ramona said earlier. So I'm a young person, so my life is not as seasoned as all of yours, but I did grow up in Gaza, and it was a ride to travel lately out of Gaza. I came to Gaza back from Senegal after I finished a bridge year program. Senegal is in West Africa, and upon COVID, we had to evacuate. And Americans just came home, Canadians came home, and I was one of the only internationals to be on the program, and I had to go to Gaza. You know, it wasn't an easy option to wrap my head around it, but it kind of happened eventually on the day that Jordan had to close borders. Jordan set a time frame on Friday that they're closing borders on Tuesday, and our program hasn't ended yet. So it was in this loop that I was in. Will Jordan let me in? Will even let me board my plane? Because I can't arrive at Ben Gurion Airport in Tel Aviv. So it was just this stressful. This place is disowning me. Will somebody welcome me in? Will the transition be easy? It happened somehow from March the 17th, 2020, I arrived in Jordan, and I stayed in Jordan until May 5th, which was a month and a half, until I got the Israeli approval to cross through to Gaza. And then in Gaza, I quarantined again for 21 days. So it was all madness in the world that I was just in my quarantine rooms, seeing the world go crazy. And you know, the beginning of COVID, it wasn't really easy time. It was just full of propaganda, full of hate, and all this, you know, separation and violence that we had in the world. We thought we're gonna be better people. COVID is gonna preach us to be better people, but then we started seeing how the world is just going towards more a polarized reality. I arrived in Gaza and I was reunited with my family after 3 years of separation due to the occupation and the borders, and it was not an easy life to go to high school abroad and just being 16 as I left. I stayed in Gaza, and it was I was nearly at home all the time because it was lockdowns, and in Gaza, as far as I understand, it was a bit more strict than here in the US. We had curfews, evening and night curfews. We had weekend curfews. So I didn't get to hang out outside. I was just with my family, which was good. The hope was I get out of Gaza by August 2020, but that was very far from reality. I just, you know, I kept seeking all the options that I have. I reached out to the embassy, to Education USA, because I have my scholarship already. I have my full ride. It's just that I need to secure my visa and just leave. But it was this bureaucratic process that you have to go through. Will Egypt let you through to go in? Egypt is not interested. They just shuttle you to the airport, and then you have to find your way out of there. Will Israel be kind enough for me, to go to Jerusalem to get my visa and leave? Of course not. Jordan is not either interested. It's just me at this time. But the main thing, and it's not like I am entitled as a Palestinian to seek other options. It's more the option, it's my homeland. Why don't I have the right to go to Jerusalem, to the embassy, and get my visa and just leave? It's easy for us to zoom out, but I would like to zoom back in. Why don't we have the freedom? Why did I see my friends from the other side of the border just go to the embassy, get their visas, and just leave out of Ben Gurion Airport? And then that reality, as much as it depresses, it's a good area for reflection, and just, you know, by yourself to go through these scenarios in mind that we've been not given throughout our life. And it's just good to think, what if we have the same rights? What if it's an equal world? What if it is an equal world? Instead of staying in Palestine for 3 months, and I'll try to be brief, I stayed for a year and 3 months. Finally, in July, it was the American embassy that started pushing the Israeli side to let us through, come to the embassy, have our quick interview, and then give them our passports, and then come back to Gaza. And then a month later, around August 16th, they shuttled everyone, whether I was late or early for school. I was supposed to be here on the 13th, but I had to sacrifice a couple of days just to be with one group. Some people coming very early for their schools, some people coming very late. On the 16th, we were taken from Gaza, to Jerusalem, to Jordan. They gave me a big headache. I was scheduled flights on the same day. It's just Israelis found me interesting for some reason. They delayed me for 2 hours. They kept my passport. And then what I'm pissed about, you know, these are things that you can't expect. You know, you can't expect them to be good people to you. But what really got me sad is that they stapled this exit permit on my passport cover. I was really, I don't know, for no reason, you know, as a young person, I was like, why did you damage my passport like this? And then they just let me out to Jordan. And then from there, it was a continuous flight of 49 hours from Gaza, where I was my permit was approved 9:12 p.m. the night before, and then I was told to leave within 8 hours. At 5 p.m. I was supposed to leave my house, where within these 8 hours, I had to have my last dinner with family. I had to say goodbyes to everyone and then just leave. And then, with no sleep, with all the worry, I had to keep up with 48 hours of traveling. But now I'm in Moorhead, I'm settling in, I'm making new friendships, very fun. And, getting to know Minnesota, it's the first time for me in the Midwest.
Well, welcome to Minnesota, Abdallah. And you'll find Moorhead probably quite different from your home. But, as Minnesotans and others who will be listening to this program, I think we have a great interest, especially in hearing really from Dr. Mona and from you about what the status is. What was it like in Gaza during the Israeli bombing in May? And what is the status now? How do you see, and maybe if Dr. Mona would say something, and then Abdallah, do you have a little bit of time to stay on with us for a while?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So Dr. Mona, if you could unmute yourself and tell us a little bit about the time of the bombing and the aftermath, and what do you see in the people of Gaza now as they come through that time? Thank you.
You are muted, Dr. Mona.
Yes. Let me start by saying that I was not in Gaza during the attack. I have arrived 10 days after the attack against Gaza. I was not right there. I was with my daughter. She had a new grandchild, so I was there in the UK with my daughter. But as all of you have watched, but we as myself, as the director of Middle East Children's Alliance, and I was in direct touch nearly 24 hours. We couldn't sleep those 11 days. And for a Palestinian watching from a distance is very, very bad. It is worse than being there, because during the 3 previous attacks or assaults against Gaza, I was in Gaza with my people, with my patients, with their family, friends. I was on the ground, moving from place to place. So it was not easy at all. It was even very worrying watching your town, many towns in Gaza being bombed, and every time you expect that you are going to lose a friend or a neighbor or colleague or a relative. So it was not easy experience for me, because this was the first time I was away while Gaza has been hit. So it was very bad one, as I have read from everybody. It was non-stop, and a lot of bombs dropped on Gaza, indiscriminate. Civilians were killed, families were shattered, and by the way, up till now, because there has been no rebuilding or rehabilitation of the buildings in Gaza, many families, I don't have the number, but are still homeless, in the sense that they hired another place to live in, or they are staying with friends or family up till now, because the rebuilding process did not start after 3 months now today. Stop the end of the attack. Besides the bloodshed, of course, the bloodshed was too much this time. Children that has been killed under the rubble without any notice, just suddenly found themselves, the whole families has disappeared, and families started moving from one place to another for safety, and there was no place safe in Gaza. There was no place at all because every place has been hit. Hospitals have been destroyed, schools, water wells, streets, the infrastructure, uh, all has been hit in very concentrated way, intense way. The last assault in the year 2014, it was a longer period of 51 days. But this time in 11 days, it was really intense. And this put a special impact on the psychological well-being of the community. Since I have arrived and I started meeting friends, family, and colleagues, everybody's saying the same, that they were in panic. Even those men, some of the men of my friends who always very strong, they said, this time we were afraid. We were afraid because of the intensity of the bombing. And as I have said, no place was secured from or safe from the north of Gaza Strip to the south of Gaza Strip. And if we want to talk, and I would like to repeat this again and again, we don't have any shelters in Gaza. So
No.
for the civilians to go there during the attacks. So people had to move to the safest place in the household and or leave the building to another building, and then the bombing will continue. So that it was a state of horror. I experienced that in year 2014, but when I have heard from my friends, they said it was different. It was really different. There was displaced people in the north, for example, and the east of Gaza. This happened in 2014, but this time the number of people who were displaced or who run for safety, they run into the town for safety. For example, Beit Lahia in the north of Gaza Strip, Beit Lahia village, and it was bombed non-stop. Beit Lahia and Jabalia village non-stop for hours. I was watching from a distance, but imagine how people had to leave their homes at night, unable to carry their simple belongings, unable to carry their medicine, for example, and to run to the schools in the city, a city which is like 7 kilometers walking, no cars, walking, running, and to go to take shelter in the schools, schools. And here I must say that the UNRWA school did not open its doors for the displaced people, despite the fact that there was a strategic emergency plan for a minute like that. So I must say that, and I must say as well that I was honored and proud. I mean, very proud of my team on the ground, Mecca's team on the ground, Mecca Middle East Children's Alliance, and my volunteers, because I have volunteers, people who are working voluntarily for our projects. They were the first people to reach the schools with water, with blankets, with food to the schools, and to some families, of course, did not go to schools. Usually in such circumstances, either families go to schools or they take refuge to their families in the town or in the nearby refugee camp. So we targeted displaced families in the schools with water, etc., emergency aid, and we targeted the families that took refuge or moved to their friends or relatives. So I was worried about the safety of the team. About 100 at least young youth, who were unsafe, and despite of that, they were very keen to fulfill their duty for the people. Thank goodness nobody was hurt. They were unsafe, and this might give you an idea and shows you about the resilience of the Palestinian people, the steadfastness of the land, the belonging to each other. If we have lost everything, we have not lost yet belonging to each other and the social solidarity. So this is one of our strong points. I am talking now, but at that time I was in tears following up the volunteers and following up the team, and Mecca responded very quickly responded to the needs of the people. And because we are grassrooted, we have partners organization on the ground, and our people, the people trust us. So of course we didn't have to go to the bidding and tendering because it was emergency, nothing like that. But the food stores, the hygienic stores, the people who the stores that sells hygienic materials, they gave us goods without paying because they trust us and they know that we have experience and we are there to meet the people's needs. So I would like to stress out this point, the strong points in the Palestinian people structure. We don't have the status of being victims all the time. No, we are strong and will continue strong. But despite of that, I wouldn't pretend that things was normal, because Gaza was left. Gaza community in general, all the community are in state of trauma. Till now, I wouldn't see people level-headed or balanced. Level number one. Number two, the children of Gaza has been affected great deal. So, and according to UNICEF, 500,000 children at least in Gaza after the latest attack are suffering of one symptom of post-traumatic stress syndrome or another, from 1 to 8. Of course, this is very severe for those who were directly has seen parents killed in front of them, or has been injured themselves, and the others who has lived the whole situation. But the number is the UNICEF number, and 500,000 children at least has been affected with one symptom of trauma or another. And of course, this needs, when I say this, just lightly, like I'm saying it, no, it reflects other things. It reflects one of the things, for example, some of those children has eyewitnessed 4 military attacks against Gaza in their very short period of life. And many of them were old enough to remember, because it is one attack after the other. We don't have break, one assault after the other. And between the assaults, the military assaults against us in Gaza, the life itself, it is not quality life, not quality in the sense of basic needs and infrastructure. When we are leading a life with no normal electricity, we don't have regular power. And during the attack, of course, the power was cut off completely. But even now, we are, after the attack has stopped, we have only 6 to 8 hours a day of electricity. We don't have a potent sewage system, so the sewage is pumped into the sea, and we don't water. I know one of the questions is about the water. I would like to talk about this. I don't know, should I continue or wait for the questions? Because the water, it's Gaza, when Mecca started our desalination units of water for the community, the schools of Gaza and the community. We started that in year 2009. The problem was the salinity of water. But now it is not only the salinity, it is the water is infected. It is not only the high salinity, it is biological infection of the water. And adding to that, it is not the quality, it is the quantity as well. There is a great shortage of water at the moment. there's a water cut off, not only electricity cut off. The water is big problem now in Gaza. So I was saying, between the attacks, our life is not normal life, and medicine, for example, and hospitals. And this is one of our areas of intervention. I run and I design and run health projects to improve the capacity building of the hospitals and medical facilities, providing hospitals with supplies and needed medications and ambulances, and run mobile clinics, especially at the time of the COVID. We did that, and to my great surprise, that like 2 months ago, and it doesn't matter, I found out that one of the very important hospitals in the north of Gaza Strip, they don't have proper ambulance. They already had ambulances, but the ambulances needs to be renewed or repaired. And the outcome is that they have very, very bad quality of ambulances. And this hospital, for example, is very important because it is in the front line near the borders. And of course, I heard about this hospital, but I'm sure we still need ambulances for the Ministry of Health and the different medical facilities in Gaza. Medicine, we don't have medicine on regular basis. Usually 40% of the needed medicine for the government, the hospital, the government of health, I mean, are not there, including medicine for renal dialysis unit, for cancer, patients with cancer. This is another health issue. The third one is the referral, because we don't have, we have hospitals, but the quality of hospitals is not the quality, and being crowded, very crowded. The need is high and the resources are low, as easy as this. The need, the health need is high and the resources are few. We still need to refer our patients for things that are not existing in Gaza, like neurosurgery, like eye surgery. Many of the cases need to be referred to hospitals in West Bank or Cairo, Egypt, and just a few, very few are referred to Israel, because before long time ago, Israeli hospitals received our patients, but not in good favor, because the government here, the Palestinian government, pay for those patients. So it has never been a favor or something really wow and huge. Even before we had the Palestinian National Authority, with this cases that has been referred to Israel, the money was paid from the insurance of the patients. So Israel try all the time to beautify itself that they receive the Palestinian patients. Yeah, that's good. That's right. That's true. They receive the Palestinian patients, but we pay for our patients. They don't take us for free. Inside that, the COGAT, getting the permit to leave Gaza is big problem for the patients. Big problem. And you have heard Abdullah saying about how he was waiting for his permit. Many patients were denied permit to enter cross the borders to the West Bank for further treatment. Many were denied this permit, to the extent that they may give the child the permit, but they don't give the mother or the father a permit to accompany the child. And this happened many times. And the worst thing, that they use the blackmail the patients. Okay, we'll give you the permit on grounds that you collaborate with us. And many cases were recorded, and many people spoke to human rights organizations about this blackmailing. They use the medicine as a way making people collaborate with the occupation, which is again, this is not accepted by all levels to use health or indulge health into not politics, into intelligence, into being be part of the intelligence against your country. Where am I now?
Well,
What is like, yeah, psychological well-being of the children. I mentioned that, but I would like to add to that there is domestic violence has increased a great deal, especially after the latest attack. Because as I have mentioned earlier on, the latest attack is accumulative of previous attacks. So one attack after the other. So by the time the child or the human being is ready for healing, they are hit again with another attack, and not only attack, deprivation, economical deprivation also, because the economical situation is really bad in Gaza, and sorry, and high unemployment, and yeah, need to talk about 350,000 university students, graduates don't get jobs, unemployed, and the income is very low, and there is not open, frank, not frank, no, not it's not the word. You can feel, you can sense the poverty now in the Gaza streets. The child labor has increased, when the children beggars in the streets, when some of the garbage men, I don't know what they call it in America, they are working hard work, very hard work, with very low wages. And when you go to the shops in Gaza, you find many things, but there's no cash for people to buy those things. When increasing number of people are buying clothes, second-hand clothes, because they cannot afford even the very cheap clothes. For example, very cheap in Gaza at the moment, but even this very cheap. For example, you can buy a shirt with $2, very nice shirt, but who can afford it? Where is the cash to buy? People are struggling to get the food, struggling to get the water, to get the medicine, and above all, struggling to be safe. This is not happening. Violence has increased in Gaza, domestic violence in the school, amongst school children, and all these are phenomena of the whole situation is not just not right.
thank
Yeah,
you,
we try
thank
our
you,
best.
Amona. You've laid out an image of very desperate and sad ongoing strife with the blockade and the continued oppression that then is intensified by the bombing and the attacks by Israel. For those of you who have joined since the beginning of this presentation, I want to remind us and acknowledge that this state that we call Minnesota now, Abdallah is going to say a few words in a moment, but about Gaza, his homeland. But this state of Minnesota and all of what we call the United States was taken by violence and deception from the indigenous people who were present for generations prior to the oppressors, the colonists, the colonial forces that came. And all of us, I believe, who are listening to this program are also searching for ways that reparations can be forthcoming for those oppressions. So I wanted to mention that and to reintroduce Abdallah Saleh, who is just come to Minnesota to go to college at Concordia University in Moorhead. So he's arrived this week after what horrific time getting out of Gaza. But Abdallah, if you would go back to your experience of the recent bombing by Israel and what you see as the current situation post that time, and go ahead.
Really, thank you again, Lucia. And you know, it's not even hard to recall, as Dr. Muna started speaking about the May attacks. You know, it's too easy to come back in mind the trauma, and you know, I'm even 18, the trauma that children had and continue to have, and the families. I don't have children, but you know, the parents, men and women who have children and are just so scared for their own lives and those of their children, just keep coming back to my mind, and it just, you know, depresses a lot, but at the same time it just gives the responsibility that we really have to take this word forward as individuals, and you know, advocate as much as we can. And again, you know, I can't stress much how much I thank everyone who joins today, because you know, we have to take things in our own hands, because our politicians just get preoccupied with their own allies and friends, and really, to be frank, disregard the sanctity of human life. And as Lucia said, we have to remember the indigenous people of this land and any other land. And when we advocate for one's rights, it's good that we see the intersectionality of all human rights and not be endangered as we advocate for others. We don't think, oh, it's going to come on our own costs. But no, when we liberate other people, we ourselves are liberated again. So as a Palestinian, I advocate for my own rights. And rest assured, as an American who enjoys full values, you are liberated too. And that's what Mandela said, that we're not all free until the Palestinians are free. But then you take it from there that liberty is a universal right that every human being is entitled to. And as we talk politics, we say, oh, it's the Palestinian aspiration for self-determination. No, we as individuals, as humans, we are born into human rights that we are entitled to upon birth. It's not a thing that we say, oh, that they're asking for more than they deserve. And going back to the May attacks on Gaza, and you know, the way I was in Gaza, but then I've joined peace building programs here in the US, in multiple states. And to be frank with you, it felt like the most moral thing in the world to do is to accept the not the enemy, but as a child, I was put with Israeli children in one camp, and I had to deal with that at 16 years and 17 years, and I signed up for it. I wanted to explore something new. I had a roommate from the Israeli side, and then with peace building, I as a Gazan, for some reason, and I think this would make sense for everyone, I had to kind of forget the past that I came from, just to give space for myself and the other side to talk things through, and not to throw the blame on the other, on my roommate. And you know, we get so preoccupied, and we start fantasizing about an equal world where everyone just enjoy rights. And then you come back to Gaza, and you see that person running into shelters. And here in America, we're just too mouthy about Israel has the right to defend itself. But then from the Gazan side, I was just sheltering in my own room that had a window. And I was stubborn enough to just continue to sit on my laptop. And every time I hear, we don't have sirens, but when I hear a whistle in the sky, which sounded like a rocket, I would just scare away from the window as if that would be enough. which obviously wasn't, but thankfully, and I speak this from a place of privilege, my neighborhood wasn't bombed. So things were far away from me, but yet things feel real. So every time now in Moorhead, Minnesota, I live 15 minutes away from the airport, I still hear the airplanes, which are very different from jets. I still hear the whistles, but every time I get the chills back and I feel right in my place as I was in Gaza. And it takes time, for these things to wear out. And I 100% know that I'm safe at this point in Moorhead, but I just keep thinking back, as Dr. Mona said, it's even harder when you're outside and you think of people who are at home, just feeling things firsthand. And, as intense as they are in daylight, and that's the pictures we see, I was in Gaza and things get really intense after midnight. Around 12 p.m., I would count as much as I recall, you would hear around 30 of F-16 bombs just coming right after each other. And I was fortunate enough to record a video from far away that you hear it, and I wrote this in my poem. You hear it 3 times. Once it leaves the airplane, the jet, there is this explosion, and then you hear the whistle in the sky, and you hear it exploding on the place, or bombing the place, and you start hearing the shrapnel afterwards. And this is the summary of my Gaza experience. But then, you get into the specificities of everything. After the 11 days ended, they were all sleepless nights. The bombing intensifies from 12 p.m. to 4 a.m. And that's, you would probably call it the quality sleep time that you just miss. And you start to try to sleep at 5, and then, the morning is there. What sleep can we get? From 5 until noon, probably. But it's still a distressed sleeping time that you're still awake. You're alert to whatever is going to happen afterwards. And then the 11 days somewhat ended with many people violently killed, families separated. The houses, just, you had to leave them at a sudden note if they even called you. A lot of people were not called. The Israelis call you on the phone, they tell you have 2 minutes to flee your house. And if you're like, you make it by that time. If you're not, then you're not. And then you have to start thinking, you think me, my family. But then all the memories you leave behind, the photo albums, your documents, your IDs, your phones, and all these small details that now I'm traveling from Gaza to Minnesota with all the things that Israel didn't allow through. For example, I couldn't take my laptop, I couldn't take my phone charger. How precious, now I'm realizing how precious a laptop can be, that I have all my stuff on, I have all my papers, I have all my pictures, and I had to leave that, I knew days before that I wasn't able to take this with me. But then how if it's violent separation and you just have to leave, and then you keep thinking of that thing. I still think of my laptop back home. I still think of how I get my things. But then what if your house is bombed and it's all rubble? How to get things? How safe are you going to get things? Are they going to be intact, or are they going to be in pieces? And that, if you see family under rubble, if you're away, if you came to their rescue, if you were able to, and you had to witness seeing families taken from under the rubble, it's a thing that I speak from a place of privilege. Again, this war hasn't impacted me personally, not even my close family, but it's very, very hard. But I don't even know if it's even possible to not even think of people who had to take out their children and their relatives out of the rubble, intact in one body or just in pieces. And the internet and social media continue to censor Palestinian voices. It's still somehow seen as anti-Semitic to advocate for Palestinian lives. But again, we're preoccupied by our own propaganda and the gaslighting that Israel does to us all who advocate for Palestinian lives. Again, we are entitled to a safe life, and that is seen as a danger to the state, which is a major nonsense that the Israel Hasbara propaganda movement continue to do again and again. And then afterwards, 11 days are over. And then Dr. Ramona came back home to that time. And until today, now we're August, we're towards the end of August. Gaza is, the rebel is not even removed. It's still there. And to just walk by demolished houses and see how, it's 5-story level building just as one wafer cookie, just like on top of each other. And you think of and we live in concrete houses, so they're different probably from Minnesota houses. Concrete, you obviously see floor after another that had meters between 3 meters, that would be 9 feet in between, that would just be in one piece together. It depresses. But then again, we see this as a political monopoly that no, it's a security, it was for security reasons that we had to do this. And they forget how many civilians there are that lost their lives, their memories, their close ones. And family, the closest to my family, which I cried my eyeballs out, was Al-Attar family. Probably many of you heard for. It was my sister's in-laws that were fleeing their houses, and they went to one house in Beit Lahia. There were 40 people in a 3-story building, as far as I recall. And then the street in front of them was bombed. That was the street. It was not even the house. And then because I think they call them suction bombs. When they bomb the street, the house in front of it just falls down. And then it fell down. And then somehow they rescued people who are on the ground floor, but people on the floor above were stuck. The house was crushed on them. And the man had to rescue his wife and children, not rescue, just bury them on the same day, because it was after midnight. As I said earlier, it was 30 bombs. Midnight, nobody could come to their rescue, and they had to go to the people after. Because when they bomb, as I told you, they bomb in mass, 30 bombs at the same time. And it's just, I don't even know we can in Gaza. I don't know if it's intentional. I don't know if it's for their convenience to bomb at the same time, but medical facilities and rescue people, it's overwhelming to do this at the same time. So if we can't get to you within 2 minutes, we have to leave you. We have to go to the other people. Sorry, I bumped you with too many details right now. If you have any more questions,
I think it's helpful for the way I process things to have details like that. Makes it quite real to me. I'm thinking too, in a general way, kind of an overview. If you and Dr. Mona each might say something about unity among Palestinian voices. Is there a sense of unity in Gaza or throughout Gaza, including and the West Bank also? And I wonder about leadership. Are you receiving what you need from leadership in the occupied territories? And I wonder if you've sensed or observed a change. And Dr. Mona, maybe you observed when you were in the UK during the bombing. Is there a change in world opinion about the Israeli domination in Palestine? what do you think? Either one, and maybe Dr. Mona, do you have some insights about that? Oh, you're muted, Dr. Mona. Dr. Mona, whoops. Good.
Thank you
Thank you.
for asking this question, because the response to what happened in Gaza during the 11 days was very big. In England, I would say, Britain, there was hundreds of thousands of people in the streets, in the squares, in London, in Manchester, in Ireland, Belfast, Dublin, Scotland, Edinburgh, everywhere. The response was very great, and if it means something.
I think you're muted again, Dr. Mona.
But the size of the attack, it couldn't go unnoticed. So Israeli army contributed to this. The ugly face of Israel, the thriving for bloodshed, has made people think that why all that, why this all this life losses, and why it is still going on and on again. And I see this very positive point, in the sense that will keep the momentum for solidarity with Palestinian people, because after all, it is very important to remind the whole world, to remind the street, the ordinary people in the streets of Britain, America, Australia, etc., that we are not a case of charity, we are not a humanitarian case and full stop. We are not a bunch of Arabs that uncivilized, savage Arabs that are attacking the sovereignty and the peaceful life of Israel. No, we are people with rights and political rights. It is political rights in the sense that there will be no peace in the area, which this is my long-term goal as a human being, to achieve peace, to live on this piece of land together, but not on any cause, not on any price, not piece of the sorry, I need to drink some water. Sorry. I mean, not peace on price that we were still under the boots of the occupier. Peace based on equal rights for both. Peace based on the right of return of the Palestinian people to their original homelands, according to the resolutions of the UN that has been guaranteed. I'm really sorry. Just a second. So right of return is the core matter of the Palestinian people. Right of return means the refugees, Palestinian who are living, Palestinian refugees, more than 6 million now, nearly 8 million, living in Gaza Strip, in West Bank, in Lebanon, Syria, in the diaspora, everywhere. And in London, in Manchester, I have seen the fourth generation of these people who were forced to leave their land by Israelis in 1948. I have seen the children carrying the key of return, which means Palestinian people will never ever give up their right of return. And Golda Meir, when she said the older will die and the younger. I'm sorry. And that, just a second. محمد جيبي لي البخاخة لو سمحت جنب راسي. Just a second. البخاخة الحمراء. Sorry. This is one of my asthma. I have bronchial asthma.
Mona, do you want to give your voice a little break?
Just a second. I'll have my inhaler.
Okay.
because I get excited when I get stressed. I'm stressed not because
You
of
know-
the meeting, because of the memories. The memories.
And one thing is that
Just-
I think I mentioned earlier that Sophie, can you tell people just really briefly, can you come unmute and tell people how to submit questions?
Okay, but just I want to
Oh.
finish this point.
Okay,
That peace that is not based on justice is no peace. No peace, and the future solution is that this land is for both, and this will guarantee the safety and the security of our grandchildren. It is not the bombing, it is not the power of Israel. Power balance will change someday, and people movement all through the world, not only for Palestinian cause, for any cause, any just cause, will make that change. And I am counting on that. That's why I'll continue living in Gaza, and I continue my struggle my own way, encouraging people steadfastness on the ground. Yeah. And I'm ready for any questions. I'm ready.
okay. So will you remind people how they may submit questions, and then we'll go to Abdallah.
Yes, people who are in Zoom, you can raise your hand if you'd like. It's under reactions at the bottom menu. You can choose raise hand, and then we can call on you to ask a question. If you'd rather not speak, you can type it in the chat and I will say it for you. And if you are following us from Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube, you can also use those comment areas to put down your question. I am following that and I will ask them for you.
Thank you. And so Abdallah will, if you would speak to the the questions about Palestinian unity and whether world opinion has been changing. And, what can we do? How can we follow up? Go ahead. You're muted,
Yeah, thank you. About Palestinian unity in Palestine and in the diaspora. A thing that we should remember again and again, how the West and Israel, they do publicize and they promote themselves and market themselves as a democratic state. But the last attacks on Sheikh Jarrah have shown how it's not really a democracy. It's as Dr. Hanan Peled, or El-Hanan, what's his name?
Ashrawi.
Ashrawi and her friend who's a professor at the Hebrew University of Jerusalem, El-Hanan, Dr. El-Hanan, her name may come back. She's a Jewish Israeli. Her brother is the son of the general Miko Peled. She calls it an ethnocracy. It's an ethnic group who call themselves an ethnic group who enjoy or have a similar past and are an ethnic group. They enjoy the full rights of a democratic state. But then other groups come as second-class citizens or below that. And the second-class citizens are the Palestinian citizens of Israel, who are not even called Palestinians. They're called Arabs, just to steal that Palestinian identity from them. And to be honest with you, Israel has been doing a really good job at doing that, to steal the identity, to only call them Arabs and to try to homogenize them with other Arab countries. And they also do this to us as Palestinians. And in Gaza and the West Bank, they call us Arabs so that they say, oh, there are other 22 Arab countries in the world, why don't you go? And they just don't respect that Palestinians, and they don't even understand. They they don't understand that Palestinians from all areas and the land and the diaspora, we have a shared history, we have a shared culture. We enjoy the same food and same clothing, which are simple things that may unite us as individuals and as one people that should have self-determination in the first place. And Israel has been doing a lot of brainwashing, which I experienced firsthand as a Gazan, and as I joined peace building programs here in the US. I had the chance to meet with young Palestinians who are citizens of the state of Israel, who had a very diverse array of perspectives on what Palestine is, what Palestinians are. Are we Arabs? Are we Palestinians? And the different opinions that I saw, and some of them who are more revolutionary and more educated than others of them, because the family here comes in a big place. Since 1948, families had to step up and do so much of the education that Israel gives you history classes, but then you come home and your grandma tells you otherwise. And you're confused as a child. You're really confused if you're fed propaganda, which is more made for Jewish students, and then it's just translated in Arabic, and then your family has to step up and do the actual history teaching that we should have. It's not, you don't teach history from those who were victors in a war, but those who experienced the war firsthand from multiple perspectives. And the students who were children at the time, under 18, the different perspectives they had, some of them were Palestinians who were willing to do their army enlisting, because let's not deny it, if you join the army, you enjoy more privileges. You have a good piece of land, you have economic support, and you just have a guaranteed future in front of you. I personally am, as many of you as the name of this group, I'm anti-military, I'm anti-violence. I don't know if I should call myself a pacifist, because pacifism hasn't really been doing much in this world. When we have oppression, we're just bystanders if we're pacifists. Yeah, some of them are like this, but then this may and only standing for the rights of people in Sheikh Jarrah, because they were about, and they continue to be about to be expelled from their homes, just standing for their rights not to be evicted, which is more separation from home and just making them homeless. Standing for those people got Palestinian Israelis, got them to be in big trouble. And that is where many Palestinians from inside the 1948 Green Line realized that this propaganda that we've been fed, it's not really the reality. It's just this state has taken us as a ticket that, yes, we're a democracy, we're 20%, we can be in the Knesset, we can vote, but at the same time, they really are not interested in our presence. And this has been present, and we all know it since David Ben-Gurion, the first prime minister of Israel. He said, I think that was before the creation of the state, to have a Jewish state, we at least have an 80% majority of Jews. Is that on the cost of Palestinians? Probably yes, which happened eventually, but it has to happen. And this is what Israel has been doing for the longest, is to say, yes, Nakba, which they mention it like this, it's an unfortunate event, but it was necessary for the creation and the coherence of the state of Israel, which is very easy to say, yes, it makes sense on paper, but we don't go in detail and see how many people have been displaced, how many people are in the diaspora, how many people long to go home, and even some sacrifice their life, because what is life without dignity, if we can have full human rights. that is about the unity of Palestinians in Israel and us in Gaza and the West Bank. But as it is hard to have unity between the governments in the West Bank and Gaza, and we should stress this, Hamas is a government. And in US media, you call it the de facto government. But Noam Chomsky lays in his book, I read it earlier, I don't know which one it is, that Hamas is the elected government of Gaza. And whether we like it or not, it's the democratically elected government, but they didn't have the chance to run their own government. So they're not really de facto. It's more that we call them de facto. And them and the Palestinian Authority in the West Bank, they have their own beef. They run their PR agendas differently. That doesn't mean people in the West Bank and the people of Gaza have different perspectives about their liberation and their human rights. Although they live in different realities for the longest, we share the same history, we share the same values, and we all see each other as one, and our struggle for freedom is one. So it's not really much to talk about unity between the West Bank and Gaza. And as Dr. Ramona said about Palestinians in the diaspora, they still to be connected 100% to their land. They're more and more interested to learn from us as firsthand experiencers of the occupation and apartheid. But there isn't much work on them to be done. It's not like we have to educate them. It's more that all Palestinians hold dearly to their right to return and their human rights they're entitled to. That was about the unity in Palestine, and I touched on leadership. I hope that was enough.
Thank you. Thank you. We appreciate those observations. And we do have some questions coming in. Soph, do you want to bring forward some questions?
Yes, I will quick remove some spotlights. And one of the questions here from Kim DeFranco is, what can we do here in America to keep the Palestinian struggle in our sights and to advance the struggle? This is for either or both speakers.
Yeah. Continue educating people about what's happening in Palestine, Palestine, West Bank, Gaza diaspora, Pakistan, 1948. And this is one of the very important program of Mecca is doing.
Oh,
sorry, would you please unmute again, Dr. Mona?
To continue educating people, raising their awareness about what's happening in Palestine. And this is one of the program Mecca is doing, speaking Palestine. They go to communities, schools, universities, people. This is one level. Other level, building the bridges between the outside world and Palestinian people under occupation in West Bank and Gaza, and put humanitarian face on political issue. The main thing is the root of the problem is what happened in 1948 and before even 1948, when the Zionist movement planned with support of the British government after the Balfour Declaration. It was big myth and big lie that people without land will come to land without people. Palestinian people were there, and they had their cities, their livelihoods, their villages, and their life in Palestine. And but despite of that, because the aim was build an Israeli state according to the Zionist movement, but this is again supported by the I strongly believe supported by the imperialism and the West. It wouldn't have happened without the support of the West and of the imperialist movement, because I don't expect the Americans or the or the or the British not to support the foundation of Israel when the British themselves have occupied many countries, and was their policy occupying the others. And when the Americans themselves, and you mentioned what happened to the indigenous people in Sita and in other parts, of course, of America. So they how couldn't they support something they have done, they have practiced already on the ground, uprooting people of their land, and the massacre that happened for the indigenous Americans, etc. So I believe that, as I have said before, the only solution is peace. Peace is based in justice, and I adopt and I believe in the one democratic state, and the land is one democratic state, and the right of return. It doesn't mean the threat of Israel or strong the Jewish people. We know the land is enough for all of us. No peace will guaranteed while the Palestinian children and civilians are suffering generation after the other, and they shouldn't count on any new ethnic cleansing for the West Bank or Gaza. I'm talking about Gaza. They are trying to make our life like hell, but still people are stuck to the land. Despite that, of course, and I don't blame them, the youth try to find another options in another countries. And this is the nature of the youth everywhere, even in settled countries, to ask for change, to seek for change, to go explore other lives. So I'm not worried about this, because the majority of the Palestinian people are still on the land, and this is one of our big and strong points. I would like to ask a question here about why are the speakers' opinion of Hamas? And I think maybe Abdullah covered this, but quickly, by saying that Hamas was elected government, and if the Americans and the West believe in democracy, they were elected people. I know I'm not personally pro Hamas, but objectively speaking, this was the choice of democracy, and I don't believe in double standard democracy. Since Hamas was elected, the siege was imposed on us and the blockade, and it didn't work. They gave Hamas more and more chance it was a failure that they count on destroying Hamas by the blockade. They give them more chances to flourish, actually. And I don't want to go into details, because I'm not very happy about Hamas practices, as well as the practices of the Palestinian Authority in the West Bank. I mean, human rights. Both are abusive of the human rights in both places. Not only about Zar Banat, but there are many things here in Gaza, and I'm saying it open and frankly. What can we do here in America? I think I answered this. What can we do here in America to keep the Palestinian struggle in our sights and to advance the struggle? I said advocacy and spreading the facts. Besides that, building bridges through projects. And here I give you chance, like for example, projects we have here in Gaza. I'm talk about Mecca, but many other organizations are doing things. But I'll talk about Mecca. Like for example, we have many cultural youth centers for children and youth, where we encourage Palestinian traditional dancing, different activities to support the psychological well-being of the Palestinian children through art, for example. And at the moment we are on the start of launching big project psychological support of the Palestinian children after the attack. People can support such project because it helps in it is very humanitarian thing, but in the meantime, it is national as well, because through dancing and through singing, we keep the Palestinian heritage alive. And this is part of our identity, because in our struggle with the Zionist movement and Israel, a part of their attack against us to demolish us, to dehumanize us, to steal our identity, to steal our culture. So we keep this as a community alive. So you can encourage people to support such projects. You can encourage people to support the water systems in Gaza, can encourage people to provide children and hospitals and medical facilities with medicine, etc. By doing this, you can build the bridges, because these projects, when we report the projects, we talk about the whole situation, and it is a chance for others to learn more about us as humans, as people who are living on the ground. We are not numbers. We are just humans. And when Abdullah mentioned about his computer and how he was stuck to his computer, they want to dehumanize us. We don't have the right. I don't have the right to have my mother's old photos. Lose it. I lost many of my mother's and parents' photos when our house was demolished in the beginning of the first and second Intifada. I don't have to remember, to have memories of the trees that my father has planted, because I am just nothing. And this is the psychology of the oppressor. The oppressor talks about me. He is superior, we are inferior, they are upper hand, we are low. This is discrimination, and this is how Israel was founded, in a colonial and racist attitude. And this is the real racism, that people are different from other people. No, we are all humans. We have the same blood under our skin, regardless of our color or race or political affiliations or etc. So this is the psychology of the occupation. Besides that, they want to control you. Besides that, they are leading, in my opinion, it is they are very eager for getting things, grabbing things and getting things. And in the end, it is racism. And there is capitalism as well, not only racism, because this is the difference between people who should have the power and the money and the land, etc., and people who are just numbers or nothing. This is the main issue, in my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you for reminding us that our job in the United States is to continue with education of our communities, and to also support organizations in Palestine, in Gaza, like the Middle East Children's Alliance. Sarah Martin reminds us that everyone is invited to come to the vigil that we hold at the corner of Summit and Snelling in St. Paul, Minnesota, every Friday from 4 to 5. And I believe, well, there are between, I think, 8 and 30 of us who stand on that island in a busy intersection in St. Paul each Friday. And I believe that we've noticed a change in the responses to our vigil over just even over the last year or the last many months, we get positive honks and waves and peace signs. And occasionally we get a mean shout, or what Bridget McDonald, one of our members, calls half of a peace sign. But usually we get positive reactions. And yesterday, during the vigil, one man in a pickup truck went by yelling something that was kind of indistinguishable and shaking his fist, and he was definitely mad at us. And a short time later, another two people came by in a car, and the passenger young man yelled out the window at us, "God bless you all." And we had a little conversation and decided to accept that blessing. So everyone is welcome to join that vigil. It's we have a Palestinian sign and some other peace symbols and signs about the occupation. So join us on Friday afternoons, Snelling and Summit Corner. Abdallah, did you want to add something also about your?
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
Again, one of the things and how we start to advocate for truth and peace and just goodness in the world is by manifesting the truth within ourselves. And that's what you do when you start believing and this struggle is worth fighting for and how we can continue from there. One of the things that I'm really thankful for, I think as Palestinians, we have a lot of programs that come in support of Palestine. They come, they give us support, whether it's fiscal, whether it's medical. And take pictures, we feel good about ourselves and we just go home. But then the thing that I saw that impacted more is when those who advocate for Palestinian supporters and others, they come to Palestine and they see the issue, the apartheid, the wall, and the occupation firsthand. You're not going to be able to see Gaza, which is horrible and sad that you're not able to come. But even the West Bank alone is enough, to go and to see the wall and pray at the apartheid wall is big enough. And when you see things like this firsthand, you're traveling, you can have fun, but at the same time, just to immerse yourself as if, what if I am occupied like this? You can cross a checkpoint with your American passport easily, but then you really can't forget those who you have to leave at the checkpoint, whether it's your taxi driver, people who you've met and made good friendships with. And I'm thankful personally for the mentoring and the support I have here in the US. I'm telling you, my transition is hard, but just having people to have my back here in the US, like the Leonard Education Organization, which I was invited to this program through. Thank you, Jenny, if you're there in the background, but you told me you're traveling. It's liberating for me to see there is this support, but at the same time, it's such a chance for me as a Palestinian and you as an American to come, as Dr. Ramona came earlier here in Minnesota, to face to face, to meet and talk things through and learn from one another and just get from there. So only supporting grassroots organization, not only, giving money and I say a prayer and I feel good, but no, take matters in your own hands, support grassroots organization in the land or here in the US who aim to bring Palestinians like myself and support their education in the US. I'm one of the many students. I'd be happy to tell you more about the Leonard Education Organization and what we do in supporting the mentoring of Palestinian students back home in Palestine and the near diaspora and in Lebanon, Jordan, Egypt, the Gaza Strip and the West Bank, and how we try to facilitate their transition to the US and to their US colleges and universities through host families in the area and setting things up for them as they arrive, and to continue to mentor them which I'm undergoing now, to mentor them as they go into education, which is not easy if you're back from home. As you start college away from home, your parents may not understand the small details of your transition. And many of you would absolutely recall your experiences as you transitioned to your education in the US. How did it feel? Did your parents drop you off at your college? Did they not? How did that feel? If you didn't, how would you feel lost? And how would it feel to have someone to have your back? I leave these questions to you. I saw Dr. Muna, you unmuted yourself. Please feel free to share this.
Yeah, can I say something? Thank you, Abdullah, for reminding me of the students, because Mecca is running a scholarship program in Gaza and the West Bank for Palestinian students inside the occupied territory. And we have reached like 500 students till now graduated from our scholarship program in different fields, nursing, medicine, basic literature, basic education, and many of them through the years. We started this year. The year I was visiting Minneapolis, I remember after leaving Minneapolis, we started this. I remember this, so I link it to you as well. And I'm happy to say that we have given chance to at least 500 to graduate. And we are observing gender, giving girls and boys chance and different specialties. And many of our students wouldn't have continued education inside Gaza without our scholarship, which is great. I feel very satisfied to see that changes that happened with those graduates because of our scholarship and because of the good donation of the American people. So take care of that as well. And I agree with what Abdullah said. Make another home for students like Abdullah. It's not only about money, it's about warmth and being welcome. And I am sure that Abdullah will be a good advocate for Palestine while in Minnesota. And I'm hoping that he will come back to Gaza after a few years. Yeah. This is, you have, if you have, and if you come to Gaza, we'll see each other. And of course, after you have finished all your studies, and you'll come back to Gaza and be with us on our path of struggle to our rights.
Absolutely.
I'm very happy.
I continue to be a loyal fallah from Gaza.
انت من المجدل، انت مش فلاح، انت مجدلاوي.
بربرة.
لا والله. صالحة يبقى صالح مش صالح.
صالحة تو صالحة مجدل and صالحة بربرة.
Yes. Okay, he's talking Arabic, but his village is very famous and very close to Gaza and famous with its not oranges, grapes and figs. Yeah. Barbarawi عنب. Yeah. So he carries his village inside his heart. He is the fourth generation and he will continue carrying it in his heart. And this is the case for every Palestinian. And in the end, it is our right according to the UN resolution. And in the end, it is the choice of people. People with the whole world as one village at the moment, people choose at least to experience their right. Then they will choose where to live. I wouldn't imagine that every Palestinian will return, but he is hoping to experience his right, and I sense it and I see it, each Palestinian.
Absolutely.
I'm very happy today to see Abdullah and all of you, and we give you the link for Mecca, but it is very important, but it is about advocacy, and Abdullah, you will be a great advocate for Palestine, I'm sure of that.
Shukran. Thank you so much.
Hello, I have another question from the group. Someone is interested in what the status of COVID and vaccines are in Gaza today.
Yeah, that's for me, I think, not for Abdullah. That's the question. That's for me?
Go ahead, Dr.
Yes, you can answer. Thank you.
Yes, in the last week, the report came from the WHO and from our comments and observations as health workers that there is increase in the cases, new discovered cases of COVID in Gaza. It has increased in the West Bank too, but in Gaza more. The number of cases are increasing, and this is very alarming. That means we are again may go back to lockdown, despite that the schools has opened. And what is more alarming is the new Delta COVID, because there are no cases discovered yet in Gaza, but it is coming as well. And in my opinion as well, which is alarming me personally as a doctor, that the vaccination, only about 11% of Gaza population has been vaccinated, despite that, with the fact that there's vaccination at the moment. But after what happened, the scandal that happened in the West Bank, like 1 month ago, I don't remember, between the expired or semi-expired vaccine that was about to be sold to the Palestinian Ministry of Health, people started to be very afraid, and the level of awareness is not that people are panicking of the vaccine itself. That's why 10%, which is quite alarming, that only 10% has been vaccinated. The number is slightly raised in the West Bank, and this is very critical situation we are going through, because again we are going from one crisis to another. We are, as health workers, we are not leading normal health situation. It is the medicine of the war, or living in not war. We are practicing in very difficult situation, and in the beginning, Israel as well has used the vaccination and COVID itself as a way of bargaining to release the soldiers. So this is again absolute human rights abuse, that to bargain about the release of the soldiers by Hamas versus getting the vaccination and medicine into Gaza. This was in the beginning of the COVID, but now what's happening is the bargaining, the opening of the borders for the goods. We are not very well equipped as health facilities. If the number of the cases has raised, at the moment there are at least 80 people in the ICU beds that has been allocated for COVID patients. The number of the COVID is increasing, so I don't know. Everything day is we are waiting or expecting surprises in that concern, and this is again another big burden on the health system in Gaza. Yeah.
Thank you for your answer. Okay, another question, which you may both have opinions on, and in some ways you've addressed, but what will it take to lift the siege permanently?
This is in the occupation. This is easy question, but difficult answer. In the occupation first, because the siege is an outcome of the occupation. But to end the siege, more pressure, more demonstrations, more people in the streets, not only to be reactional to the bloodshed of Gaza and big attack against Gaza, because Gaza is under small-scale attacks every day. Abdullah knows this. I didn't talk about the fishermen that has been attacked every day. I didn't talk about the farmers that has been attacked every day. Here I live by the sea. I hear the shooting every day against the fishermen. So we need movement under the sign of end the Gaza siege now. And don't link Gaza siege to any political views. Gaza siege is something illegal and should end now. This is the answer. There is another issue which I don't want to go into details, but it is very shameful that there is a division still between Gaza and West Bank. And one of our strong points is unity. And I'm not sure who is encouraging this lack of unity. I'm not sure about our politicians at the moment, because if they have real national aspiration, real feeling of what Palestine needs from us, what home means, the first step to end the siege is to have the unity of the Palestinian people, which is not going to happen. We have been under this siege for 14 years since Hamas was elected. So we need strong will by the Palestinian people, the Palestinian politicians, to focus on one issue. For example, why don't we go with hashtag, I don't understand in this Facebook, but I mean demonstrations, hashtags, get signatures, talk to your politicians everywhere, not only America, everywhere, to end this siege. This siege, this blockade is killing our people slowly. And it is a new sort of genocide, by the way. Genocide, they are feeding us little amount of to keep us alive, but they are counting on this quality of life. They will not succeed because we are aware. But what's happening really a new way of genocide? What's happening in Gaza, especially? People are killed slowly.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing that I thought of, and Mahmoud Darwish's poem, Think of Others, summarized it's all. I hope I get a minute to just read it to you all. And it goes like this: think of others as you prepare your breakfast. Think of others. Do not forget the pigeon's food. As you conduct your wars, think of others. Do not forget those who seek peace. As you pay your water bills, think of others, those who are nursed by the clouds. As you return home to your home, think of others. Do not forget the people of the camps. As you sleep and count the stars, think of others, those who have nowhere to sleep. As you liberate yourself in a metaphor, think of others, those who have lost the right to speak. As you think of others far away, think of yourself. Say, if I wear a candle in the dark. And reading this poem from Mahmoud Darwish, it just liberates the thought of how much freedom we have in ourselves to speak for others who can't speak, and how much ability we have and we can utilize to support others who have no power or any other tools to use to support others. And I had a thought of what was again the siege, yeah, and the last war on Gaza. Sorry for my notifications. Let me turn them off. The last war on Gaza has shown us how much we live in a polarized world and an unequal world. As Dr. Ramona said, it's a double standard democracy. And in Gaza, we don't have a democracy, obviously, because we're under blockade, we're under apartheid. But at the same time, see how much power we have in the US right now. As US citizens yourselves, you have the right to call and pressure your elected representatives, whether they like it or not. You have the right to say your mind, and it's on them to agree with you or not. And we saw last May how much the world has shifted opinions in the US and in Europe as much as we followed. We saw those, and I'm not good with names, but long-standing Republicans continued to be a bit stubborn about it, but Democrats, you saw those who were vehemently and blindly supporting Israel now considering other opinions. You started to hear the word concerning, which is not enough, but it's the right step towards the right way. The situation in Palestine starts with concerning, then it's grave danger, then you start calling for liberty, for equal rights, and for the demolition of the system that we have now, which is an apartheid system. Our elected officials get preoccupied with the thought of Israel has the right to exist, Israel has the right to defend itself. But the Israel that we have right now is not a moral state, and we have to do a lot of work towards a one-state solution, not a two-state solution, because the two-state solution that everyone who works on right now, Hamas is complicit to the two-state solution, the PA is complicit to the state solution. Israel says that they want a two-state solution, but the state, the Palestinian state that they want to have side by side with Israel is not a viable Palestinian state. It's just small Bantustans that would have somewhat of an autonomy under the state of Israel. So the whole system, it's a failed system as soon as it was even proposed around beginning of the 1992 with the Oslo Accords. So we have to fight for an equal representation, a representative democracy of both Palestinians and Israelis under one government, where everyone has the right to live in peace, has the right to return to home. And I say this with 100% confidence that as much as it is right now, it's seen as it's not a viable solution. It's not a solution that we have on hand, but it's really the most moral solution. If we want to accept the status quo that we have right now, it's no solution, and it's not going to lead us anywhere but for more and more danger and wars on the way. And it's what Israel has been telling us. We want peace through security, which has failed already years after years, but we want security through peace for everyone. This is a quick summary. I've put my contact information. I am the one who runs the communications at leonardeducation.org email that I've shared in the chat. This is my new phone number that I bought yesterday. I'm settling in Minnesota well. And you have my first email there. Feel free to reach by text, by call, or by email. I would love to hear from you if I can be of any support or any insights. Thank you again for the invitation.
Yes, feel free to speak, Dr. Mona.
Yeah, I would like to attract Abdullah's attention and everybody's attention. It is not a war, it is an assault, because a war is between two equal parties. Israel is the fourth strongest army in the world against against resistance, Palestinian resistance. So it is not a war, and it is not conflict. Conflict makes things not clear. It is a cause. It's a Palestinian cause, not Israeli Palestinian conflict. It is Palestinian cause because we are people with rights. It is not just conflict, conflicting with each other. No, it is not like that. Israel was founded on a special ideology. I don't want to Zionist ideology, which is very close to the imperialism and the apartheid regime and different racism in the world. So I want to make these 2 points clear. Beside just my last comment, after thanking you so much for giving me the chance for this meeting and to meet Abdullah as well. I feel happy to see young Palestinian people carrying the message, carrying Palestine on top of their shoulders wherever they are going. And I hope to see him in Gaza in a few years. And to encourage you to increase people awareness and to get in touch with Mecca because of we have this program called Speaking for Palestine, to learn more from our website and to help us on the ground, continue helping people not to be deprived, not to be demolished, to keep their identity, to keep their dignity on the ground. Beside that, the situation is very bad at the moment in Gaza, and the worst thing I see is that when people start to lose hope and faith, and so you and other solidarity groups and other organizations worldwide, this is our window into the sky, that we feel that we are not alone and we are never forgotten. I got this feeling very strongly through this meeting, that's through your solidarity and support and understanding, my people don't feel that they are alone, especially with the very shameful stand of the governments. And I promise you that I convey the message, because since I have arrived, I moved from place to place in Gaza, meeting with women, men, and children, and I convey your message of love and support. Thank you very much.
And thank you both. It has been such an honor to have these nearly 2 hours with both of you. Thank you, Dr. Mona, for your openness and generosity as we invited Abdallah to join in this conversation this morning. And thank you, Abdallah, and we wish you well in your new project in Moorhead, Minnesota. I know it'll be different for you. And we welcome you to this area. And mostly, we thank you both for your ongoing work, your commitment to Palestinian rights and to peace with justice. And we honor both of you. You have been inspiring to us as we continue working. Thank you, thank you. And if you could hear us, you would hear all of the applause of all the people saying, thank you, thank you, thank you. And we probably should say good evening to Dr. Mona and carry on with your day, Abdallah. Thank you.
It's a good day already. It's been hot here.
Yes, it is. But you got some rain last night, I think.
I know, I was soaking wet yesterday.
Yes, that's unusual. It's been unusual this summer, so that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I hope more chances to meet up on the way.
Yes.
Be well.
Be well. Everyone be well.